Let's start. I'm curious, before we start, your ages. 14? 17? 15? Okay. 14 to 17. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah.
60.
Yeah. First of all, I want to welcome you. I thank you and your parents for being so courageous to let you come to this program where there's some difficult things to hear and see. But I want to introduce you to someone who's even more courageous, and that's our Sonia Goldstein. She was, go ahead. She was 16 years old. So the average of those of you here, put yourself in her shoes as you listen to her story and be a witness for her. When I was born in 1943, in the middle of the war, and after, I never heard about the Holocaust. I guess they wanted to protect me, my friends, my sister. We didn't hear about it, but you have the opportunity to hear the story. Sonia is from Vilna, Poland, which today, she'll explain, is called Vilnius. She came from a comfortable family. Her mother was a designer, her father a furrier. They had comfortable life, and everything changed. I'll let her tell her story. Please, I know you'll be respectful. No cell phones, of course. And then if you have any question at the end, she'll be glad to answer. Thank you. Sonia?
Hi. Well, I come from Vilna, Poland. My city is now belongs to Lithuania, and it's called Vilnius. You probably know from geography. Why? Well, Hitler and Stalin, they were the best friends before the war. And they decided they're gonna attack Poland and divide Poland in half. Well, my city is right not far from the Russian border, so I fell under the Russians. Now I was lucky for a year. Now the Russians looked back in history and they found out that my city used to belong 100 years ago to Lithuania. So they gave back my city to Lithuania. You know, Lithuania, yeah, they are the Baltic countries. Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia, they are right near the Baltic Sea. So that's why my city now in Lithuanian, they call it Vilnius. You probably know from geography. Well, I was 16 years old, like from a comfortable family. My father was a furrier. He had the biggest shop in my city. He had 10 people working for him that time. My mother was a designer. I always went to private schools, and I had a wonderful life. And I also was a figure skater. From a little girl, my mother paid to give me figure lessons. But Hitler came. I had a brother. Hitler came, and everything changed. Excuse me. Soon Hitler came. Naturally, that monster, he started with the Jewish people. Germany, before the war, was the most cultural country in Europe. But that monster came And the people believed in him, and they followed him. Well, naturally, when they came to my city, the first thing they started with the Jews. We weren't allowed to go out, only for a few hours a day to stay in line for a piece of bread. While the man was standing in line for a piece of bread, that's when it started. They grabbed them from the streets. They took them behind our city. We had woods. Ponari, that town called. They have there now a museum. They took them there. They made ditches in there, and they shot them. That was the start. The second time, the second thing what they did, I lived in the center of the city. We were 90,000 Jewish people in that city. Only 4,000 survived. 86,000 was slaughtered. The next thing what they did, we were still in our apartment. One day they told the mothers to bring the infants, the children, in the middle of the city. They're going to give them milk. They're going to give them some food for the kids, for the babies. Even it's hard for me not to talk about it. They brought them in the middle of the city. They made a big bonfire. They grabbed the infants from the carriages, and like a piece of garbage. Even we are careful now, where we throw our garbage. And they threw them in the fire. The mothers wanted also to jump in, but they wouldn't let them. That was the start. After that, they made a ghetto. You know what the ghetto is, right? They made 2 ghettos because we were too many people in one ghetto. So they made 2 ghettos. Over there, naturally, we weren't allowed to get out. We were all surrounded with the Gestapo. They used to take out the people every day to work, and all in the railroads, and the railroad, the train, how you call it? Right. They used to, every month, every few weeks, they used to take out people, and they used to kill them. Now, like I told you, my father was a farrier. There were no Christian farriers in my city. I don't know why. Well, naturally, we were right on the border of Russia, and after a year or so, Hitler declared war on Russia, and we were occupied by the Nazis. What did they do to us? Like I told you, they started. They started, with the Jewish people. Well, they needed, I get very nervous when I talk about it. One day they came to the ghetto, and they said all the farriers with the families out. Why? They were already, the Nazis, they were fighting in Russia, and they needed the farriers to make fur jackets for the soldiers, because it was cold. So they took us out from the ghetto, which we had a little better than the people in the ghetto. And they made a factory right across from the street from the factory. There was a very big building, and they put all of us, all the families from the farriers, they put it in the building, but we were still all around with the Gestapo. We couldn't get out, nothing. The men used to get up in the morning, and one of the Gestapos used to take them across the street, and we were inside. Food was very scarce. They gave us rations. We did the best we could. We used to find out what was going on in the ghetto. In the ghetto, one day, they liquidated the ghetto number 2. And naturally, they took all the people to the woods, and they were all killed. So they had only one ghetto. After a year or so, a little more, we found out they liquidated the ghetto, number 1. They took all the people, some of them to the woods, and a lot of them, they took them to the concentration camps. They had in Riga, Latvia, they had a very big concentration camp called Kaiserwald. That means, in German, that means woods for the Kaiser. Kaiser means like above. You know what the Kaiser means, no?
Like a king.
No, that. And they were kept in there. Now we were still in my city villa. We were still in the fireplace a year, which we didn't have so bad. I mean, we had it very bad, but not like in the ghetto. One day, the Germans, the Gestapo, came with trucks, and they said all the kids, still 13 years, on the trucks. We knew it's no good. My brother was just 13 years, but he was tall. Naturally, he came down too. They took all the babies, all the children, they took on the truck, and they took them out. Well, my brother was the only one left. Why? One of the Gestapo came over to him and said, "What are you doing here? You are more than 13 years. But he was smart. He says, "No, I'm 15. He says, "So what are you doing here?" He says, "I was helping to load up the children on the truck." So he was the only one left. They took the trucks. We found out. How we found out? My brother had a friend, Bobush. He was very short. They took them to the railroad. They put them in the cattle cars. And in the cattle cars, they have small windows with bars. They put them in there. They were riding a whole night. And they came. How do we find out? Because of my brother's little friend. And they saw the train stopped, and they saw Auschwitz. Bobush, my son's friend, saw it. He went to the window and he squeezed himself and he jumped the train, and some Polish people saved him and he survived. The rest of them, they took them to the gas chambers and to the crematorium. Now we were still left for a few months in the fireplace, and one day they came, the Gestapo, and they told us everybody out. They didn't put us on trucks, but we walked to the railroad. We knew it's finished. We came to the railroad. They put us also in the cattle cars. Oh, yes, my father, My brother and my mother also had a sister and my cousin Debbie. And after a whole night riding in the cattle cars, the train stopped right in front of the big concentration camp Stutthof. You see, you know a lot about Auschwitz because Auschwitz was the largest camp, but there were a lot of death camps. They were all death camps. And the camp that they took us was right near the Baltic Sea. The train stopped right before the gas chamber and right before the crematorium. They told only the women to get out from the train. I don't have to tell you how we felt crying. We came out and they sat us down right in front of the doors from the gas chamber. The train left. My father was there with the men. We didn't know where they are. They took us in right in front of the gas chamber. They told us to undress completely naked. They had over there Gestapo, that the first thing they shaved our hair, no hair. After that, they made a selection. Why did they make this selection? They were older women, women who were sick, and also women who were pregnant, young women, a few of them. So they made the selection left and right. I went, me, my mother, my aunt, my cousin Debbie, we went to the right. They were lucky, a little. The people, the women in the left, they were right before the gas chamber, crying. We had no more tears. Now, the Gestapo came with loaded guns, and they went over. There were about 4 of them, young women pregnant. I don't know how they let themselves being pregnant. And the first thing what they did, they killed the fetus. They shot them in the belly to make the baby is dead. Even now I shiver. Then they took those women on the left, they threw them in the gas chamber, the doors opened, and they threw them in the gas chamber. We were there, we saw it, everything. After that, when they were dead, they forced us to the right to put them on stretchers, the bodies, and to take them over to the next door to the crematorium. That's where men were there. They picked up the bodies and they threw them in the oven. I shiver now for so many years. Naturally, we went back. They gave us the concentration camp clothes in stripes, blue and light gray. We were already shaved. And we stood in line to number us. I had the number, but right away I wiped it off. That's why I don't have it. But I know my number. And after that, they put us in the barracks. They had barracks. The barracks, they threw us on the floor Over there we used to sleep like sardines. They took away our shoes. We were barefoot because the shoes, they were ripping apart the shoes to look for diamonds and gold. Now it didn't work for a while at all. But every morning, twice a day, they used to chase us out from the barracks, and we used to stand like this, like 5 women in a row, 5 women this way. And they used to give us a little coffee. It was water with a small piece of bread. A piece of bread was life. And they also gave us a gray cover that we used to lay on the floor like a blanket. We used to cover ourselves in the blanket and barefoot. There were no toilets, excuse me. Behind the barracks, they gave us a shovel. We used to make a little hole, and that was our ladies' room. After it was full, we used to go and do it in another place. And like this, we used to stand for hours. It was already the fall. Twice a day, they used to let us in the barracks. And then when it came lunch, you call it lunch, another little water. And we used to stand like this. Now, it came a time, we figured out that probably, we heard planes, that probably the Russians are nearby. But it was still a long time till they came, thank God. They took us out one day from the concentration camp, and they took us for labor. What was the labor? We were already, like bones. The labor was, they took us to a town, they gave us a shovel and a pick, and we used to work on ditches, 6 feet, 6 feet. Imagine young girls, young women who had no strength, hungry, and they used to put up tents, a tent. On the ground was a little straw, that was the bed. And we used to work a whole day. And the Nazis used to go all around with the pistols. Anybody who couldn't work already, they used to take it out. The woman, the girl, over there, not far away, was a horse and buggy standing and waiting for the women who couldn't work anymore. They were already 3/4 dead. They used to throw them on the horse and buggy, and they used to take them and they used to bury them. They were still alive. Because it was a small town, there were no gas chambers in there. We used to finish in one town, they used to take us to another town. That was going on for months. I don't know how I came alive. And we used to also work on the ditches. On Sunday, we didn't work because the Gestapo, it was holiday for them. But they had little barracks. You know, they had everything okay for them. But they needed entertainment. What was the entertainment? They used to take out a girl, a woman. They used to take the chair. This, I fell, I had the hip replacement. That's why I'm walking with this. They used to take the girl, they put her on the chair with this up. They used to take a whip. They used to whip her till she was almost dead. That was every Sunday the entertainment for the Gestapo. And like this was going on for a while. Till one day they said no more work, and they took us for a dead march. What was the dead march? They couldn't take us back to the concentration camp to put us in the crematorium because they were already the Russians there. So they took us on a dead march. He gave us a little water and a small piece of bread a day. We used to sleep on the ground. The women were dying from hunger. And like this, till we came to a place on a hill, marching, and they told us, stop. We were anyway 3/4 dead. And while we stopped, we were on a hill. We saw in the valley a big stable, and the people took out from the stable the animals. They were more worth than a human life. They took out all the animals from the stable. After that, they told us to march down and to go into the stable. We knew already that's finished. I went in, me, my mother, my aunt, my cousin Debbie, in the dirt. We were dirty too. Oh yeah, forgot to tell you. We had another enemy in the camps, lice. We were all attacked from lice. They were dirt lice and hunger lice. They were big lice, big like this, with black stripes in the middle. We were going like this to get a little rid of the lice. That's how bad we were attacked. Well, we went into that stable. I'll never forget. How can you forget? And we sat down in the dirt. And me, my mother, and my aunt, my cousin Debbie, we couldn't know where to walk. That's how sick we were. And we sat down on the ground against the wall. Now those stables were made from pieces of wood. Crying, we couldn't cry no more. While we were sitting for 10 minutes, the whole wall, just where we were sitting, collapsed. And we heard bullets. And I swear to you kids, I was the first one to get up and to look. And what did I see? I saw the Russian tanks. I went out from the opening, and I saw the Russian tanks on the hill, and I started to scream. I'll never forget this. To let know the girls, I says, girls, the Russians are here. I says, we are free. We are liberated. They said, oh, that I went cuckoo. They didn't believe it because only this piece of wood opened up. And that's how I was liberated. I went out from that opening and I saw the Gestapo laying right there dead. I mean, now I cannot even see blood. I jumped on his body and I started to dance. Why did they take us to that stable? They had nothing to do already with us. They were in trouble too, but they didn't give it up. All around that stable, they put on gasoline, little, how you call it, you keep the gasoline,
Gasoline cans.
Yeah, the cans. They put it around the stable, and they're supposed to drop the gasoline and to put the fire and kill us. But the Russians saw it from the tank. They saw the stable, the Gestapo with the gasoline, and the first thing what they did is to kill the Gestapo. They shouldn't be able to do that. And that's how we were liberated. I don't have to tell you. You know, I speak 5 languages. I speak Russian. And I started, and they said, Девушки, that means girls. He says, please don't eat nothing. It was a raw meat in the stable. I took a piece of meat. We were so hungry, raw meat. And I ate it a little. Anyway, they told us right away, the Russians, the ambulances came and everything. It was a small town right near not far from the concentration camp, a very small town named Chinov. It was Poland, but all the Germans lived there. Naturally, they ran away. So right away they said to us, please go in to the houses. The houses are empty. 15 minutes? 2 minutes. I'm sorry. I cannot talk too much. I cannot tell you because we have no time. But that's how I was liberated. Another 2 minutes, I would be dead.
And at that time, the Russians were fighting with the Americans and the British. They were called the Allies. So they
You're right.
helped liberate in this location, and in other locations it was Americans who came in and liberated.
That was in Germany. I found out later,
Alan Moskin was
that my father is alive and he was in Dachau. That was in Germany, near Munich. Later. But I was ill, but thank God to the Russians, they saved us.
Does anybody have any questions? We're really running late. Yes.
Did you meet your father again?
Did you meet your father again? Yes.
It's a whole story.
I think it was in
I
the
was,
next few years.
I was in the hospital, I had typhus, I had dysentery. You know what dysentery is? That you go with blood. They saved me. It's a whole, I need another hour.
Yeah, it took a long time for her to recuperate. Yes.
Till I found out.
After the war, did you return to Vilna, or did you go somewhere else?
After the war, did you return to Vilna? Or did you go elsewhere?
I wanted to return, but we went to Poland, naturally. We were there, and they told us not to go in there. So it was a whole thing. We stopped in a big city in Poland, and, you know, they opened up the doors for us.
There were displaced persons camps.
In all the cities.
People in.
And they used to bring a list, you know, from the other people that they were liberated in Dachau, in Mauthausen, and other camp. And one day, I came there and I found my father's name. My maiden name is Aronovich. Aronovich Hirsch, Aronovich Jascha, that they are alive. They were in Dachau, and they are in Germany. It took us a while till
They got together.
we got together.
And it took them 4 years till they got to the United States.
I mean, they put us, we came there. They put us in a beautiful place near Munich. I mean, we came from Poland to my father. They didn't know that we are alive. We knew about them that they are alive.
They didn't have cell phones or any kind of communication between the countries, the camps, etc.
And we came there, my father didn't know, but they used to come every day to a place to find out maybe. They used to bring a list with names. That's how I found out, but they didn't. But we came there and we saw in a place, we were over there exhausted, and I saw a bunch of men standing. And I got up, I was sitting down, we were tired from traveling, and I saw my father standing with a bunch of men, and I started to scream, "Papa!" Well, I don't have to tell you, but people were crying. My father absolutely didn't know that he used to come to that place to find out maybe we are alive. That's how I found out my father. I says, "Where is my brother?" He says, "He's okay." They put him in a place right near Munich, in a very rich German, you know, they would have villas in there. Naturally, they ran away. And we were there 4 years. They wouldn't let us in.
Is there any other questions?
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What do you think was the reason that you were able to survive all those years and all that deprecation and
I really don't
degradation?
know. Maybe it was luck. I don't know. It was maybe luck.
Have you been back to your country since?
Excuse me?
Have you been back to Vilnius?
Yes. I have a very good friend. She's dead now. That she survived too. She survived. They took them also from that concentration camp to the Baltic Sea to throw them in the water. It's also a whole big story. But the Russians planes saw it, and they killed the Gestapo on the plane, on the boat. And the boat was already in Swedish water on the Baltic Sea. That's how she survived. I used to go, you know, practically every 2 years to see her. And we went one day to my city. I was only crying, that's all. There was nobody there.
Anything else you want to ask?
Any other questions? I want to tell you kids, you are young kids, you are in a free country. Please, take care of yourself, study, educate yourself. I came to this country in 1949. I didn't have a penny. I met my husband in Germany, you know, in that nice place after the war. We didn't have nothing. We worked hard. I have a son who is a doctor. He's an NYU graduate. Unfortunately, my daughter passed away 15 years ago. She was ill. She was a teacher, English, high school, make out of yourself, educate yourself. My husband worked day and night to educate them. I didn't want to have children till I couldn't educate them. I wanted to be a pharmacist, but Hitler came. That's why we had Latin in school. Those years you need Latin for pharmacy, for medicine. My son is a very successful doctor, anesthesiologist. So, do it. You're in a free country. You can do it.
And what should they do or say if they see people who show hatred?
What do you say?
What should they do or say, or how should they act if there are people treating other people badly?
Well, they have to go to a psychiatrist because we are all the same people. We all come from the same place, from the same religion. It is just made up, Catholic, Jewish.
Doesn't matter.
That's the way I feel. Look at what Hitler did. And, the most wonderful country in Europe was Germany, and they all followed him. All of them. Sick.
Okay.
So remember my words, kids. Educate yourself. You are a free country. You could do whatever you want. Do it. Any other questions? Is anybody here who speaks Polish? They look. No?
If you would like to come up and
Oh,
say hello or shake hands,
whatever.
have some time.
Not
But
next, this I forgot to tell you,
Oh.
right next to the concentration camp, Stuttgart, was a factory of soap. And it was a very, very well-known German professor was in top of that factory.
Of soap?
They used to take bodies and make soap in that factory. I saw it right next, Stuttgart concentration camp.
So you saw things that you wouldn't want to talk about, but what caused you to start speaking out? Did you always feel that you had to witness or talk out about what had happened?
That's
Or
right.
You did?
It's not easy for me to do it, but since, I am 93 years old. I just had my 93rd birthday. And another few years, none of us will be alive. And they are people that they say it never happened. How can they do it? Sick people.
And now you are witnesses because you've heard it from her mouth and what she saw, that it didn't.
I saw bodies like garbage. To take bodies, people and make soap. I forgot his name, Krausner or something.
It took a lot for you to speak
Yes.
at length, and we thank you for coming. Thank
You're
you so
very
much.
welcome. Remember, kids, educate yourself, be good, because you never know. Maybe another monster could come. I hope not.
Maybe they will be the ones to stop anything happening again. But history, they say, will repeat itself if you don't pay attention to what happened.
Now, there was a Gestapo woman, you probably heard, from the dead bodies. She took the skin and she made, for the lamps, the shades.
I think
Thank you. Thank you for listening.